We can now kick it off. And I see that people are still joining. Please use the link that is already in the chat box. Let me pin it. You can share it with your networks. We need as many people to join this conversation as possible. So we'll start with the why. Why are we having this day today? Today is 2nd of April. And we are having an amazing set of speakers who will be telling us who actually have an experience around autism. It's either they are autistic or they may be taught autistic children, or maybe they are counselors and have interacted with maybe people seeking counseling or guidance around autism, and some are caregivers. So basically, we are having a diverse set of speakers, and I can't wait to hear from all of you. And so today is 2nd, and we are calling it Autism Spectrum Disorder Day. And we'll get to see why we are here today. Why do we have to have this conversation today? Why is Candikia leading this conversation? So I will be your moderator tonight, and I'm not alone. I'm with David. David, for the sake of the people that were not around, please say hi.
Hi everyone. How is everyone doing? My name is David Newtoizaka. I'll be part of the moderating team. Excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So right away, I'll start by saying who Candikia is and why we are holding this conversation tonight, and then I'll introduce our speakers. Hopefully all of them have joined. So again, my name is Margaret Wanyoro. I am the project coordinator with Scandicare, Scandinavian Care Organization. We are an ungovernmental organization that focuses on children and people living with disability or special needs. We majorly focus on menstrual hygiene awareness, of course, among girls living with special needs, and we also have inclusive programs. Besides that, we also have mental health and psychosocial support to parents and caregivers of children living with special needs. And we are also having an upcoming program around nutrition and a physiotherapy program, again, focusing around people and children living with special needs. And so that is Candikia for you. And of course, we are celebrating this day, and our major goal today, as you've seen in the poster, I wish I could pin that poster here. But I think most of us have come across the poster. So in this year's theme, we're talking about stories of empowerment, challenges, and victories achieved in aligning SDGs, that is Sustainable Development Goals, with autism. And Michael, thank you so much for joining, because I was worried whether we'll be speaking about SDGs because we were not having you. You are one of the people that is so much passionate about SDGs. And tonight we'll be focusing again on from survival to thriving. We are not surviving anymore, we are thriving. And among the people that we have tonight, the speakers that will be taking us through our conversation tonight, the first one we have Dr. Margaret. Dr. Margaret Maura, please say hi before I read your bio. Dr. Margaret.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. So that is Dr. Margaret. Thank you so much, Dr. Margaret, for joining us tonight. You are here 30 minutes before. Such a timekeeper. Thank you so much. So who is Dr. Margaret? Dr. Margaret Nduta Mwaura holds a Bachelor of Education degree from Kenyatta University. She has a master's degree in education, majoring in guidance and counseling, and a doctorate in education psychology. She works as a lecturer at St. Paul's University in Limuru, where she trains special education teachers. She also lectures at Kenya College of Accountancy University. And besides that, she's also been working with us, Scandicare. She carries out mental health empowerment programs with parents and caregivers of children with special needs, of course, autism included. In Scandicare. Thank you so much, Dr. Margaret. We are happy to have you here, and we can't wait to hear from you. Okay. Hi, Teacher Agnes.
Hi everyone.
Hi. So that is teacher. That's teacher Agnes. We call her teacher Agnes because she's a teacher, and we've seen what she does. She's very passionate because I've worked with her, and this is Agnes. Agnes Gitonga is a special school teacher. She holds a bachelor degree in the area of special education and counseling. She's also a curriculum developer with Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. She holds a bachelor degree in the area of special education and counseling. She's also a curriculum developer with Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, where she does, I'll read it anyway, just a part of it. So Michael Kishoyan is an anti-FGM advocate, a policymaker and youth leader in Kenya. He is currently serving at the UNFPA. This is the United Nations Population. Michael, you'll tell us the full meaning of UNFPA. Kenya Youth Advisory Panel, where he promotes meaningful youth engagement and participation in sexual reproductive health. And besides that, he has taken part in the stakeholder formulation of the National Reproductive Health Policy 2022-23 of the Ministry of Health that targets YPs, that is adolescents and young people. And Michael is also passionate about sustainable development goals. He champions for SDG 4, which is quality education. Michael, you'll tell us more about that. Gender equality, and SDG 10, which is reduced inequalities, and also partnerships for the goals. Michael does a lot of things. Please, if you want to hear his bio, talk to me nicely. Thank you so much, Michael. We're happy to have you here. And lastly, my co-moderator, David. Hi, David. Again.
Hello, madam. How are you? Amazing.
I'm very well. I'm so happy to have you here, and I'm so happy to moderate with you. So I'll read something about David, and I'm reading it with a reason, because I can't wait to have you here, and it's also because I told you at some point you'll become a speaker. So David is a marketing professional and also an endowed storyteller who is using his skills to bring sensitization to mental health. He's also a collaborations and partnership officer in the Youth Empowerment and Advocacy Network. Besides that, he's a researcher who is working to advocate for better policies for everyone in the autism space. He's also working to form a research think tank so as to collect data and information that is related to our mental well-being and use it to inform better policies. And thank you so much, David, for being with us tonight, despite the short notice. I appreciate and I honor you for that. And David, I think David is the one person that I know lives with autism. He's told us that David lives with autism. And I think he's one of the people who is so major in this conversation because he helps us understand does autism limit him from maybe doing some things? How has he even gotten to the place that he is right now? Like, if you look at his bio, you'll see that he seemed to hivi. I'm not saying kuna watu hivi, but you'll see. Maybe he'll tell us how he managed to get there. But anyway, Anne, are you here? Anne, have you joined us?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Anne.
Hi, to Margaret. How are you?
I'm well. You're well?
Yeah, I am well.
Okay, so this is Anne Nyethed, right?
Yes, she's the one.
Okay. So I'll just read something short about Anne now that she's here with us. So Anne is an autism advocate. She advocates for the rights of people living with autism spectrum disorder. And this is what she told me when I told her to send me something about herself related to autism. She said that the most significant role as a caregiver to a child with autism is to be their number one supporter, to remain positive and allow home to be a safe and calm place. Learning about autism, talking with schools and behavior analysts, knowing their child's rights and supporting a child every step of the journey allows a caregiver to be part of the growth and success of their child. Thank you so much, Anne. We see the work that you do as a caregiver and as an advocate. We appreciate you for that. Now, we'll dive into the conversation tonight. And I'll start with Dr. Margaret. Dr. Margaret, are you still here? Dr. Margaret Maura?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Margaret. Now, I just learned today that I normally call it autism, but today I learned that it's not autism, it's autism spectrum disorder. What is this? What is autism spectrum disorder? Why do we call it a spectrum, Dr. Margaret?
Okay. Once again, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I am pleased to be here and listen to others talk about this noble and unique personality. And I want to say that it's a good evening because this is one of the special needs that people are less educated, they are less informed. And thank you, Margaret and Scadcare, for providing this forum where we can educate ourselves so that we can be able to give more support to those people with special needs, and especially people who are autistic. Okay, back to your question, Margaret. First of all, when you talk about autistic, it is a neurodevelopmental disorder. And it's neuro because it is a kind of a condition whereby the people are exposed to different brain functioning. The only difference between them and any other person is because their brain function differently. And because of this difference, it affects other factors in their life, which we are going to discuss later on. So it is a spectrum because it is a kind of a continuum. One, it depends or it is determined by some severity. There are those people, there are those children or people who are autistic, but they are very severe, such that they need overall support. Some of them, they need even special facilities. On the other hand, there are those who have got mild symptoms and also mild challenges. And so these people will grow normally, they will interact normally, although there will be some challenges, maybe others may not know, but they will be experiencing. So from severity to mild challenges or to mild symptoms. On the other hand, we are calling it as spectrum because they also have unique challenges. They have unique challenges. They also have unique abilities, whereby some of them can be exceptionally gifted. And we discuss some of the people who are very great people, very well, very successful in life because they are exceptionally gifted. Also, it is a spectrum because we have three different types of autism. For example, we have autistic disorder. These are the people with what we are calling the normal or the ordinary or the well-known autistic symptoms and challenges. And maybe we'll discuss later on this well-known. Apart from autistic disorder, we have Asperger. And this is a category whereby the challenges are now mild. They are milder than the autistic disorder. And then we have pervasive developmental disorder. The pervasive, they are very mild. Some of us could be autistic, but even we don't know. Unless we go for some assessment, we may not know. So we are calling it a spectrum because of all those factors. That it is, you cannot define it using a single term. There are so many variations. There are so many differences. There are so many challenges. There are so many abilities, and because of that, it is called ASD. That is autistic spectrum disorder.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Margaret. That was amazing. Teacher Agnes, I'm getting to you now. As a teacher, as a facilitator, as someone who is expected to pass knowledge to children and to the society in general. Teacher Agnes, you're there with me?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you so much. Dr. Margaret has mentioned something that when we talk of autistic spectrum disorder, that it is a spectrum because it varies, and people, we have various types of autism. We have people with basically we have unique abilities and challenges at the same time. So how do you manage to go about this as a special needs teacher? And how do you manage to go about the various spectrums of autism when dealing with children, or when working and teaching children? How do you go about it, given the different spectrums?
Okay, thank you so much, Margaret. And thank you so much, Dr. Margaret, for the highlights that you have given about autism. Like Margaret has said, actually this is the disability that people are really not yet so much enlightened on, because you find that people tend to confuse. And when it comes even to educational placement, you find that most of the children who have autism disorder or a spectrum, most of them are placed in a unit which is meant for learners with intellectual disability, because they don't understand them. So many people don't understand these learners. And because we have a caregiver in the house, she'll tell you that even if you go to the schools, it's like autism disorder is not really well understood. Like Dr. are saying that most of the learners who are autistic, you realize that some are GT, gifted and talented. And when you place that learner in a class of learners who have intellectual disability, then you waste the learner. Number one, as a teacher, and out of my experience, classroom experience with these learners, and especially when autism was introduced in our special unit, let me say that we received them with mixed reactions. Number one, we didn't really know how to handle them, and I want to believe that each one of us is aware that the only way you can learn and the best way is through the experience. What we are taught in class, not unless you apply it, not unless you meet and experience these learners, then you'll not be able to handle them. Number one, I would say that handling various autism spectrum, because like doctor said, there's no uniform, there's no uniformity of characteristics and the symptoms. Each individual learner is a unique learner. They manifest their own characteristic and symptoms in different ways. So I would say that handling these learners who have autism spectrum disorder in a classroom situation, it requires, I would say, a multifaceted approach that considers the diverse needs of every individual learner that you are handling, because you realize that each learner will manifest their own unique characteristics. So you will not have a uniform way of handling learners who have autism. We handle learners differently because they have unique needs, they have unique achievements, they have unique weaknesses. So we handle learner as an individual learner in a classroom, and that is where you realize that when you get into a classroom where we have autistic children, you will not find a teacher using a blackboard to teach those learners, because some may not concentrate, some are hyper, you find them up in the windows, some will run, some have weird characteristics. I will say that number one, for you to handle these learners, you need to educate yourself. You need to equip yourself with knowledge and skills as a teacher. There are even that in a unit, there are teachers who specialized, who have different specialization. Like they didn't do any content to do with the autism, but it start with a teacher. You now, if you find that you have a learner who is autistic, you now start learning. You educate yourself, you equip yourself with the knowledge and skills in order not to waste that learning in the classroom. Another one, what we do as teachers in special schools and special units, we come up with something that we call IEP, Individualized Education Program. It is individualized education program that captures strengths and the weaknesses of each learner. You work on the weaknesses because you already identify the strength of the learner, so you work on the weaknesses. Like the way doctors said, you realize that some learners have weaknesses in communication for both verbal and non-verbal. So you work on the weaknesses of every learner. So we call it IEP, Individualized Education Program for each learner. Another thing, another approach that we use in classroom is we have structured environment. You realize that this learner manifests various characteristics. Actually, I will say that you, especially with, let's say that we want to sing in classroom, you find there are learners who will block their ears because when others are singing, that sound seems too loud for them, so they block their ears. So number one, we structure the environment for this learner to fit and learn along with others. So you decide to have like soft music, or you just avoid loud music, because to them they are hypersensitive. It is too, what we feel, what we hear as a normal sound, to them is too loud. And that is why if you are very keen, autistic child will block their ears. They normally block their ears. Actually, the ones that I have in my class, like 90% will block their ears. So what we do, we come up with a structured environment. Maybe we can divide those learners. Some can do music, others can do like games, so that we accommodate those learners who are hypersensitive. I want to be brief because I know there are some other speakers. Another thing that we work on is communication support, whereby we use a clear, concise language, like visual aids. Instead of just standing and talking and talking and talking, you come up with the learning materials to use visual aids for them they see and conceptualize what it is. So they also learn better when they see. And you realize that it is good also to mention that these learners are really different. There are those who want to see a certain color. There are those who are lovers of blue colors. There are those who are lovers. So if they love blue, they also love blue, including the utensils that they are going to use. So we ensure that we have a communication support, so that whatever we are using, like it is. Another one is social skill instructions. We teach social skill so that we provide opportunities for these students who are autistic to practice social interactions. You bear with me, they segregate themselves. Children who are autistic, most of the time you find that they want to stay alone. They are not, I don't want to say that they are not social beings, but they have weaknesses with the social interactions. So it is upon the teacher to work on that behavior. Actually, we call it behavior modification, so that you'll be able to accommodate others in the classroom. So we have a variety of approaches that we use in the classroom to ensure that this child who has autism or autistic disorder fit in a classroom whereby we have varied disabilities. Like we integrate all the disabilities in one classroom, but we ensure that we accommodate so much.
Thank you so much, Agnes. I've let you explain that to us. I've decided not to cut you short, because I felt that that was a very, very important aspect to know how you to actually get to understand how you handle these children when they come to class and you're teaching them. And I think it's good to know that you are also taking note of their diversity, and of course the individual differences of each and every child. Now, Anne, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you so much, Anne. And Teacher Agnes has told us about how they manage to handle the children in school, despite the differences, and Dr. Margaret has explained to us on the various spectrums. Now, as an advocate on autism and as a caregiver, Do you feel like your child is well understood, whether it's in school or in the society or yourself? What steps do you take to ensure that you get as much information as possible on how to raise your child who is actually different from the other children? How do you go about that?
Okay, thank you, Margaret. First and foremost, no, in most cases, I don't feel like my child is understood. And what I do mostly is I go to school and I try to explain to teachers on how to handle my child, because you will find in private schools there is no special teacher.
Okay.
In most private schools, they don't have special teachers, so it is my responsibility as a caregiver to explain to the child about my child.
Mhm.
Yes, that is what I do.
Oh, okay. So in this case, I take it that you, as a parent, you are. I actually love the fact that you're fully aware of how to handle your child, and you are also very much willing to guide other people on how to handle your child. I think that's amazing. We don't see that often, and I think that's something that maybe you can keep on maybe not sensitizing the community on, or the society, of course the teachers included. And thank you so much for that, Anne. I'll get back to you in a few. Now, David, you're here. My co-moderator, but I told you at some point you'll be a speaker. That's why I've not allowed you to moderate, at least at this point. David, can you hear me?
I am on. I am here.
Thank you so much, David. So for those of you that have just joined, I'll read who David is again. David Waithaka is a marketing professional and an endowed storyteller who's using his skills to bring sensitization to mental health. I fully agree that he's a storyteller. The first time I met him, it was stories and more stories. And he's also a collaborations and partnership officer in Youth Empowerment and Advocacy Network. Besides that, he's a researcher who is working to advocate for better policies for everyone in the autism space. He's also working to form a research think tank so as to collect data and information related to our mental well-being and use it to inform better policy. And David lives with autism. He's born and he was born with it and he lives with it. And when I look at his bio, we all can see how much David has done and what he's still doing. David, we are talking about children living with autism, raising children living with autism, how to maybe go about them while teaching them in a school setup. Do you think where do you feel, you now as an adult, do you think you're considered in this conversation? Are you a part of the conversation? Am I let him really grow? You are taken out of it, David.
Yes. Wow, that's an honestly amazing question. So background, a little bit of background. I started speaking when I was 4 years old, a little bit late for a normal developing child. My mother, I think, around three years, took me to a normal hospital. We were living in Pipeline by then. The normal government hospitals, Akapeleko, and then I think there's always the free we have accessible is outdated way back in 2019, way back in 2020, before post COVID. And if you actually try to see the development of kids from COVID till now, that's around 4 years. A lot has happened, a lot has moved on, and the question should be how does the government actually becomes more serious, try to reach out to the young ones who are now a little bit into their adulthood and involve them and ask them how can we try to include you in the conversation, how can we create spaces to make you feel seen, to make you feel heard, how can we in the government also try to also make sure that the special needs are cared for in the education system, in the basically all round. So yeah, that's a conversation that you should have. and exciting. I'm excited, already excited by the conversation.
Wow.
So yeah, thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, David. I think I love the point where you said you need to be meaningfully engaged in the conversation when policies are being made, when even during the implementation of these policies, you all need to be involved in the conversation. I love that aspect because, of course, most of the times maybe you'll find, as much as we are talking of inclusion, maybe we happen to realize that the people with disability or with special needs, and maybe for someone like you who can actually be in a position to because your spectrum allows you to speak up for yourself and to say what you think should be done, you are in a position to advocate for yourself. I think the conversation should be different on how you can be meaningfully engaged in policy formulation, etc. Now, Michael Kishayan, are you there? Michael, if you can hear me, say hello.
Hello.
Thank you so much, Michael. Now, David has mentioned something about meaningful engagement and in policy formulation involving people living with autism. And in your bio, you're passionate about sustainable development goals. And one of them is SDG 10, which is reduced inequalities. And what David has just mentioned is an inequality in his part. He feels that he's not fully engaged in policy formulation. And sometimes, and we've also had Anne, who is a caregiver, saying that she feels that her child is not understood when it comes to the society and even in the schools, and especially in the private school sectors, she has said. Now, what do you think we can do to ensure that we reduce the inequality gap that is there when it comes to people living with autism? Because it is already there, we've all had that. So what do we do about it? As someone who is an advocate of S10, how do we go about it?
All right. Thank you so much, Margaret, for that good question. And I think my previous speakers have really talked about important issues in regards to autism and how we are going to what are the challenges that we're facing, what are the milestones that we made, and also what gaps are there in terms of inclusion and engagement of people living with autism. And so if you try to look at the Sustainable Development Goals, I think we have a target that is SDG. Reduce inequalities is in SDG 10, and if you try to look at target number 2, that is 10.2, we are targeting that by 2030 we empower and promote the social, economic, and political inclusion for all, irrespective of age, sex, disability, race, ethnicity, origin, religion, or economic or other status that are there in the community. And as David have talked about, and also Miss Anne, about the gaps that are there, I think we can have some of the examples of maybe the targeted and inclusive approaches to address the needs for people living with autism, to ensure that maybe they are not left behind in the pursuit of SDGs. I think one is accessible education, and I think Madam Agnes talked about the children. Now the government rolled out the program on inclusion of children with autism, and that is now a step towards the achievement of this particular goal of including all these children in the education sector. And then also we can have community support services that target people with autism, and we should establish maybe community-based support services that provide intervention, therapy, vocational training, and also employment support tailored to the needs of individuals with autism. And then just to add on that is that these services also should be accessible and affordable um, to these people. And then maybe another point is we can also have the healthcare access of these facilities. And then we also want to ensure that services are accessible and sensitive to the people living with autism, including the healthcare providers. And one of them is here with us. And also social inclusion programs. I think, Mr. David, you are in these spaces, and I think you are in a better platform to push for the agenda, to push for the policies of social inclusion programs that are geared to um, that are geared to maybe talking and also uh, uh, defending and outlining the plight of all these people. And then we can also have advocacy and awareness programs. Um, I think we can also have a match. You know, many people do not know and maybe do not understand the meaning of autism. Many people, like many parents, do just get a child, maybe a child with autism and stuff like that, and this parent does not know that maybe my child is having autism. I think one day we should also consider having a work and sensitization program on concerning autism, and then also policy and legal protections. And I was just trying to look at the website, maybe searching and trying to do my research, and I came across something to do with Autism Society of Kenya, and I've been trying to look at their.
Thank you so much. That's amazing. And when you talk of when you talk of research and innovation, I love that people like David are actually leading the way, because he said that he's actually doing a research that is aimed at informing policies. Let me see that again. Yeah, David is a researcher who is working to advocate for better policies for everyone in the autism space. I love that you're leading. You are one of the people that are leading this conversation. And also Anne is also, as a caregiver, she's also in the space of advocating and of course creating awareness on the issues around autism. And we have people like Dr. Margaret. Dr. Margaret, I'm coming to you in a few. People like Dr. Margaret, who are actually in the front line of sensitizing the caregivers and the parents on some of the causes of autism. And maybe before I get to Dr. Margaret, David, please take us through the maybe messages in the chat box, anything that we need to look into, because for the interest of time, please include all your questions, your comments in the chat box. We'll read them from there. If time allows, we'll let a few people maybe speak. But in the meantime, let's keep on putting them in the in-call messages. David, please take us through the chat box.
Thank you. The session is going on amazing. We are learning a lot. I am also learning a lot. Thank you, Mr. Bishoyan, for that. Ms. Lucy Nduta says, I think early diagnosis for autistic children is very, very essential to ensure early intervention and thus better outcome. She is actually sensitizing on the matter of early diagnosis for autistic children. And then Lucy Nduta also says, as a parent of autistic child, I feel that much awareness is needed to reduce the stigma associated with all children with special needs. She's actually highlighted something very important. There's actually a rising stigma. Short story, if there's time. I was actually explaining to a friend of mine how my autistic, my spectrum basically works. And in all through that, he was actually comparing my experiences with the people, with the people basically with Down syndrome. So through the question, I was like, do you actually know the difference between autism and Down syndrome? And there's a very big level of can I say ignorance actually pertaining to such matters of autism, and the need to actually know what it is, how it's manifested, how it's actually shown. So yeah, thank you, Miss Lucy, for that. Coach Ken also says we should have caregiver course for autism. Yeah, we should. I'm actually pushing for that. through policy it's important. Madam Rachel Njiko says, I have a question. How does a facilitator deal with an autistic learner who refuses to do writing activities, and does he or she and he or she was loving it before then, all of a sudden they refuse? Please guide. Amazing question, Miss Rachel Njiko. To that, there's actually a regression. They say there's a regression behavior associated with people with autism. At age 2, they might be bubbly, very, very excited, and after a few months or a few years down the line, they'll start regressing and actually leaving behind some of the things they used to do. They'll start getting a little bit tuned out with society. They'll start being loners. And I feel we can actually try and involve more caregivers. We can bring the caregivers on board. We can bring the specialist on board to actually help the young ones get in touch with their behaviors. The next one is thank you.
Okay, David, maybe you can check maybe how far you've gone, and then we'll get back to it in a few. I see that there's a lot in the chat box. Thank you so much. Lucy Nduta, we see you, Rachel, we Wanjiro Kirori, we see you. Basically, we see all of you. Now, I will get back to the chat box in a few. Dr. Margaret Mwaura, I want to come to you now once again.
Yes.
Among the causes of autism, we have people that say, "Oh, my child is autistic because of maybe there are the issues of witchcraft." Some people say your child has autism because there's something you didn't take to your parents. Maybe you've not paid dowry and such things, or maybe you need to do things to your ancestors for this and this to stop happening. Please tell us about this. How true is this?
Okay, it is true that there are many myths or stories surrounding the causes of autism. And the many times I've been talking to the caregivers and the parents of children with this kind of a condition, it has really been a very major issue that their beliefs that autism is caused by some cultural aspects, cultural misconceptions, like you have talked about the Damale. Some would say it's because the child was not shaved when he was when he was born, was not taken to the grandfather, or the name that the child was given is not okay. So there are all those cultural misunderstanding about autism. And this is exactly what we need to deal with. Those who are to hear and even spread the gospel of the truth, because people are not able to take these children for the right treatment, for the right therapies, because they believe it is cultural. So other reasons are religious. Maybe we have sinned against God, or we are cursed. And so they run to churches and they pray and they overdo rituals. But after so many years, nothing is happening. But as Lucy has just said, with the early identification of the symptoms of autism, the children can be they can be helped to ease those symptoms and the challenges. Of course, we have to know that autism is not curable. There is no cure as per today. But we can reduce the effect. We can reduce the symptoms. And this child can live a very, very successful life. He can cope to live, or he can be able to live with autism. So we are saying when a child is not identified early, so the seriousness, the severity of the condition, they get to a stage whereby even going for therapies and treatment thereafter, it may not significantly help that child. So we are saying the causes of autism, they have been researched by scientists, and they have known it is not bewitched, it is not a witchcraft, it is not cultural, it is not religious, it is scientific, it is biological. For example, there is a genetical aspect of the cause. Most scientists have discovered that there are certain genes that we carry, and those certain genes, they predispose a child to autism. So it is not the parents' fault, it is not the child's fault, it is no one's fault. It is just something that happens naturally, and it could be carrying the gene within us. And the other cause of autism that has been investigated by scientists is the complications at birth. When a child is being born, there could be some complications, maybe prolonged labor, and those can also interfere with the functioning of the brain. I said the only difference between autistic and the other people is the way the brain functions. So if there be mishandling of the child when he's being born and the brains are affected, then that could also result to autism. Of course, if you give birth when you are old, a child can become autistic for the same reasons, because when you are old, you don't have the energy, you don't have the nutrients, you cannot support, you're not able to support the baby in the womb adequately, and so the child brain will not develop adequately. And so all the people I was trying to search, and they were saying 45 years and above, likelihood, not everybody, but there is a likelihood of giving birth to a child who is autistic. Then environmental reasons also lead to autism. For example, if you live in a highly polluted environment and you are pregnant, especially in the first and the third trimester, scientists say that when you inhale those pollutants, you are likely to affect the brain of the developing fetus, and it can easily turn out to be autistic. Also, maternal lifestyle. A pregnant woman lifestyle can also cause autism. For example, one who is smoking, you have infections that are not treated, or you are obesity, or you are consuming drugs and other substances. They are saying those substances, they go directly to the fetus, and they may affect also the functioning of the brain of that fetus. Okay, so those are some of the reasons or the causes given for autism, but it's a combination. According to scientists, it's a combination of many factors. And you have said the genetic factors and the environmental factors. So it is not anyone's fault that a child is born autistic. And that is why the masses should be educated on how to look out on the signs and symptoms early enough. Like David has said that the mother noticed that David had delayed language development. That is one of the key symptoms of autistic child. They have delayed milestones. For example, a child is supposed to speak at a certain age, but the speech is not developing. The child is just repeating what others are saying, but they are not able to express themselves.
I see you, and I've just realized that you are a facilitator or a teacher, and you've also answered a very good question up there, and you also have a question. And Teacher Agnes, I want you to answer this question for us. Are you there? Maybe very briefly in a minute, please.
Yes.
You are a teacher, and we have another teacher here who is asking, how does a teacher deal with a learner who refuses to write, yet he used to love it? How does Madam Rachel Wajiko is asking that question? How does she handle that learner?
Oh, okay. Number one, what I realize with these learners who are autistic, they don't like transitions. They don't like. They have their routines. Like if they love mathematics, they want to do that mathematics. They have challenges with transition. They have challenges with the changes. They have their own routine. So the best thing is to do it gradually. Like you prepare the child that maybe that if you be teaching the child mathematics tomorrow or a different subject, because you realize that learners who are autistic, they have specific they have specific strengths. There's a learner who is very good in computer, and like we said earlier, they vary. The diversity of the symptoms vary. There are those who are mild, there are those who are moderate, there are those who are severe and profound. For the profound and severe, it becomes so difficult to expose them to changes of the routine or a transition. Like they want to, they are fixated in their strengths. I'm good at this and they should not change. So if you're intending to change, you do it gradually. You can do like activities of daily living or the encounters. Instead of introducing like mathematics a topic, you do it like daily experiences. Like how many cups do you have at home? You know, you introduce it gradually, but if you go pap, they resist change. Not unless you are very keen and you do it very gradually. Otherwise, they are going to, they will not attempt because
Okay.
they don't like change.
All right.
They don't like transitions. That is that is how they are, and that is how their life is. They believe that I'm good at this, and this is what I should do. Like you can find a learner. I have a learner in my class who has never been taught. Nobody taught him how to type, how to use a computer, but he's an expert in that area. You tell him to do anything else in class, he won't. He resists. So what we encourage the parent to liaise with the teacher to identify the strength of that learner. And one thing I would like parents to know is that so far we have not defined curriculum for learners who are autistic. I think that is very important for the caregivers and the parents to know that there's no defined curriculum for the learners who are autistic. We either add them, they either use a stage-based pathway or they use age-based pathway. Those who are mild and moderate, we integrate them in the regular classroom so that they can learn along with others. But the severe and profound, they remain in classes for learners who have intellectual disability.
Okay.
But what I would like also to advise is that let in collaboration of the teacher and other educational stakeholders, identify the strength in that learner. Kama ameamua I'm going to do science, that is why we are encouraging CBC. We look at the potentials of the learner. If they are good in science, let them major in sciences. Otherwise, any change that introduced to them, they rebel. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Teacher Agnes. That was so good, and I really believe that it has answered Rachel's question. If not, please, you can say it in the chat box. Now, Ira is saying this. There seems to be a gap between the teachers and the parents and caregivers on matters schooling, based probably by information. How do schools go about it? And it's like the so-called normal isn't there. Okay. So the question is, since they are so diverse in levels or talents, is special schools an option? Okay, I'll take that question, Ira. So since children with autism are so diverse in levels of talents, is special schools an option? David, I want you to answer this. I told you you will do what? You will do all of it. My co-moderator and a speaker. David, you are in an integrated school. Basically, you are, despite being a child with autism, you happened to be in a class that had children that we term as normal in quotes. Did this help you, or do you feel like a special classroom would have been the answer, maybe to your education? David, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. So on the question of can we actually have special schools for autistic children, from my own shared experience, mine was I had a very bad. This is me just romanticizing my experience in school, high school and primary. Had a very bad experience in high school and primary. But the most beautiful thing is, as a parent, as a caregiver, we are not there yet as a country to actually have an existing system to serve autistic and mentally special kids. But what we can do at home actually matters a lot. Because personally, I've always been a reader ever since I was young. I remember I could go take big, colorful books, 500 pages, no matter the
company doing about this, because these parents are there. They even, maybe it's just a single parent who have got to go to look for work and to look for food, and sometimes they don't even have someone to live for these children. So it is practical and it is okay to tell them to take a break. But how practical is this?
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Yes.
Another thing I wanted to comment on is about taking food with sugar and wheat. I wanted to tell the mother who was asking the question that, yeah, it is true. I have my daughter. I had a problem with her for a very long time, wondering why she doesn't want to eat. I could not understand that she didn't want food. One, food that has been frozen, she never ever wanted to eat them, but I could not understand. I live abroad and most of the foods here are frozen. So she could not eat. If you make for her any frozen food, she could not. She could not eat wheat. She could not eat sugary things. It took me so long. These days, I just make her vegetables, and I don't also give her as many carbohydrates because of the reason the doctor explained. So I think, I don't think it's true that some children, not all, but some children don't embrace food with sugar and wheat. Thank you.
All right.
Needs, I've noted a common characteristics. These caregivers and the parents, sometimes they don't accommodate or they don't like asking for help. It is like, this is my problem, let me deal with it. That has been a general attitude. And others, even when they are offered help, in fact, they decline. It is like, I have adopted, this is my problem, let me move on with it. And my take is, it is normal to ask for help. It is very normal. It is normal to ask your neighbor, let me just have a break. Just check on my child, I'm coming back. It is good to ask a relative.
That my son is 17 years old and he has anger issues, very nervous, and also has delayed speech. Someone is also asking, please, games for the holiday, 4 years old, please share. So if you have any games, Maureen is looking for any recommendations for games that a 4-year-old can play during the holidays. Please put them in the chat box. Please do that. Now. From this conversation, I'm hoping that the next conversation we have, probably before this month ends, we'll have a conversation with the caregivers. We'll make it a virtual conversation. This is something that has come up in the chat box. We'll engage you. We'll have all these conversations that you're asking right now. How do I take care of myself? As Kenneth has said, sometimes I'll take breakfast or my child will take breakfast and I'll forget myself. So you find yourself neglecting yourself. How do you work around stigma? How do you navigate it? How do you actually get to, maybe when you need your child assessed, what are some of the steps that you should take? I know Teacher Agnes will have taken us through that, but unfortunately our time is really gone. And because there are people that got here way before time, almost 1 hour before time, I want to wind up. I just want to finish up in this conversation. Wanjiro has given you, Maureen, the games that maybe you should have. But before we close it up, Teacher Agnes, give us your parting shot in 5 seconds, please, starting from now.
Thank you, Margaret. What I would like to say is that I've really enjoyed the discussion. I've also learned a lot from the speakers. What I would like to say is that I want parents to understand that there are 2 pathways for these children, and they will be placed there after assessment. If you take your child for assessment, the assessor will be able to tell you whether your child will, which pathway your child is going to follow, whether it is entity-based or stage-based. And if you are advised to go a stage-based way, you exactly do that. If it is age-based, age-based, these are the learners who will eventually do the national exam, who will also be placed in junior secondaries and senior secondaries. But for stage-based, there's no like going to junior secondary. They only focus on the potentials of the learner. And again, another something else is that learn to identify the strength in your child, so that you'll be able to assist you, the teacher, will be able to assist this learner acquire the competencies that learner has. Sometimes we end up wasting these children because we want them carry everything with them, whereas they have maybe one or two potentials, and that is what we should focus on. And also let us learn to embrace our children. That is how they are. We only manage autism because, like we are told, there's no cure for autism, but we only manage it through diet and behavior modification. So I want to wish all the caregivers and the parents all the best. You are the first teacher. You identify the what your learner is capable of doing. If they are very good in computers, just discuss with the teacher so that you'll be able to help the learner. You have seen one of the speaker here is autistic, but you realize that he has strength in memory. He said he is very good in history. So he was not forced to do mathematics because he didn't love mathematics. So let us also learn to appreciate what the strength in our children. And let us not force them to do what others are doing. So that's what I would like to say. And also, our intervention, take the children for assessment for educational placement. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Teacher Agnes. I almost said that is almost 5 minutes. Thank you so much. It was so helpful. Anne, are you there? Anne, can you hear me? Okay, seems like Anne can't hear me. Michael, you've taken us through.
I'm here.
Oh, okay, Anne, thank you so much. Your parting shot in 5 seconds, actual 5 seconds, please.
5 seconds?
Yes, starting now.
Okay. I would like to thank Esther here for this platform. I have learned a lot, and I'm looking forward to create more awareness on autism. And I would urge all the parents who are here with kids with autism that diet is everything, and please be an advocate of your child. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Anne. We appreciate you, and thank you for the good work you're doing. Now, for those of you that maybe joined us later, Anne is a caregiver, and there's something that Anne did that was so good. Anne, in the school that her child goes to, Anne approached us and she requested us to do a sensitization forum, a disability awareness forum for the teachers and the parents in her school. And so basically all we did is we reached out to the school and they agreed to give us the forum, or the platform rather. So I'm also requesting, if you're a parent out there and you feel that this is an issue you want addressed, please reach out to us. We are here to do that, of course, with the help of Dr. Mark and the to join this forum today. Michael Kishoyan, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Michael, you've taken us through SDG 10. I wanted to ask you more, but I also understand that you've mentioned something on SDG on quality education. Michael, please give us your parting shot in 5 seconds. And in the meantime, please put your email address in the chat box. Someone is asking for it.
Okay, thank you so much, Margaret, and thank you for the speakers also who have spoken before me. And this has been a very, very productive session. And let me just base my closing remarks on targets, on SDG 4, target 4.5, and which reads that by 2030, eliminate gender disparities in education and ensure equal access to all levels of education and vocational training for the vulnerable, including persons with disabilities, indigenous people, and children in vulnerable situations. And I think this is whereby we get children living with autism. And we should also have this call to action to eliminate these disparities that we are experiencing. Thank you very much, and have a lovely evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much. We see you. We appreciate you. And finally, David, you've made such a great co-moderator. I know what I was doing in your WhatsApp, telling you to help me do this and this and this, and also as a speaker. Please tell us something.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So in my 5 seconds, I want to say love conquers all. Love is people. And I want us as parents, as caregivers, as neighbors, as...
We started with prayers and we'll finish with prayers. So hope Malesi, are you here or a volunteer?
I'm here.
Pray for us, please.
All right. So let's believe and pray. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for this awesome discussion that we've had. Thank you for making us available for this webinar, Abba Father. We thank you for the planners. We thank you for the organizations can live and care, Abba Father. We thank you for what you're doing in their lives, Lord, to bring impact to such discussions, King of Glory. Lord, we thank you for all that you've done. We thank you for taking over the discussions. Lord, we thank you for the speakers we've had, Lord. We thank you for everything that you have in store for this organization. And I commit the children with autism, King of Glory, into your hands, Abba Father. Lord, I pray that you may just be the director of their life, Lord, and continue meeting them at the points of need and answering the desires of their heart, Abba Father. Lord, as we coming to close of this webinar, Lord, I pray that you may just take control of our lives, Lord, and this night we commit it entirely into your hands, Abba Father. We thank you for Margaret Onyoro and David Oedaka, them being the moderators, Abba Father. Lord, I pray that you may just bless them and give them sound mind, King of Glory. And in Jesus' mighty name, I do pray and believe.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. Have an amazing month and night. Thank you for keeping it here. If you need any email or phone number, get it in the chat box.